Alright, I'll get started with the first part of the story. Here goes. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, but here we are. My name's Jake, and I've been married to Emily for about 5 years now. We met in college, and for a while things were pretty great. We had our ups and downs like any couple, but I always believed we had something real. She was smart, beautiful, confident. Almost too confident sometimes, but I liked that about her. She was the kind of girl who knew what she wanted, and I thought I did too. Our relationship hit a bit of a rough patch about 6 months ago. Emily started working late more often, claiming new projects at her job, but I noticed she was becoming more distant. She'd get defensive if I asked about her day, and I'd catch her sneaking her phone away when she thought I wasn't looking. Small things, but enough to make me uneasy. I tried to brush it off, convinced maybe I was just overthinking. Then came our anniversary trip. We'd booked a weekend at our lake house, a place where we'd made so many memories. I thought it would be perfect. A little getaway to celebrate us, reconnect, maybe rekindle some of that old spark. But from the moment we arrived, I started noticing things. Emily was acting different, more irritable, snapping at me over stupid stuff, and her phone was glued to her hand. She kept making excuses, telling me I was imagining things, that I was paranoid. She even threw in some classic "I'm tired" or "you're being paranoid" spiel whenever I asked about her strange behavior. The night before we left, I found her phone on the couch, unlocked. I didn't want to snoop, but after a few drinks I couldn't help myself. I glanced at her messages, and what I saw made my stomach drop. There were texts from some guy named Josh, flirty, suggestive, even a few that looked like they'd been sent late at night. She called him babe, and there were photos, 2 pics of her in a bikini, sending him kisses, even a suggestive selfie with her lying across the bed at the lake house, captioned "Can't wait to see you tonight." At first I thought maybe I was mistaken. Maybe it was just a joke, some kind of prank, but the more I looked, the clearer it became. These weren't just innocent messages. This was an affair right under my nose while we were supposed to be celebrating our anniversary. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. How could she do this? How could she betray me like this at the lake house I thought was our sanctuary? I was so angry and hurt I didn't know what to do. I wanted to confront her right then, but part of me was just numb. I spent the rest of that night staring at her phone, trying to process what I'd seen, trying to figure out whether I'd been blind all along. I mean, she'd lied about everything, about her late nights, her work trips, her tiredness. All those little lies I'd shrugged off. They were all part of a bigger picture. She'd been cheating on me, actively sneaking around, and I had no idea. That's when I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just pretend I hadn't seen anything. I had to face her, ask her what was really going on. But I also knew that once I did, my life was going to change forever. I just didn't realize how much until I actually brought it up with her. I decided I couldn't keep quiet anymore. The next morning I waited until she was still half asleep, pretending not to notice the way her eyes darted around the room. I grabbed her phone off the bedside table and faced her. "Emily," I said, my voice trembling a little but trying to sound calm, "I saw your messages last night." Her eyes widened, and she sat up faster than I thought possible. She looked genuinely surprised, like she hadn't realized I'd gone through her phone. Her voice, usually so bitchy and quick to spin lies, got even more defensive. "Jake, what are you doing? That's private. You shouldn't invade my privacy like that." I couldn't believe the audacity. I just stared at her, feeling a mix of anger and betrayal boiling inside me. "Don't play that game with me. I saw the photos, the messages. You've been cheating on me, Emily, with Josh, while we were at our own anniversary trip. How long has this been going on?" She scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Oh, please, you're overreacting. Those photos are nothing. You're making a big deal out of nothing. It's just sex, Jake. It doesn't mean anything. I was bored, and he's just someone I've had fun with. It's not a big deal." That's when I lost it. Bored, fun, like I meant nothing. I couldn't believe she was trying to justify it like that. "You think I'm stupid, sending you kisses, calling him babe, sending those pictures at the lake house. Do you know how humiliating this is, how much you've hurt me?" She sneered. "Look, I don't owe you explanations. I'm not some perfect wife. I do what I want. You're just too damn clueless to see it. And honestly, I don't see what the big deal is. It's just sex, Jake. It's not like I'm leaving you for him. It's just a little fun." My stomach twisted. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. She was so damn cold, so dismissive. I knew then she never loved me, not truly. She'd just been pretending for years. I had always thought we were solid, that our bond was real. And now I saw that I was nothing to her, just someone she settled. For someone she could lie to and cheat on without remorse. I couldn't hold back the tears, which I never thought I'd do in front of her. I was so angry and heartbroken I could barely breathe. I told her she needed to leave. She looked at me like I was crazy, calling me paranoid, again trying to gaslight me into believing I was overreacting. But I was. I knew everything now, and I didn't want her near me anymore. I told her to pack her things, and she snapped back, calling me crazy, accusing me of spying on her, saying I was jealous and insecure. I watched her storm out, her high heels clicking across the floor, her bitchy attitude intact as if she hadn't just shattered my world. I sat alone in the living room with her phone, staring at the pictures of her and Josh, trying to process what I just heard. The betrayal wasn't just about the photos or the sex. It was about the fact that I'd built my life around a lie. I thought she loved me, that I meant something to her. Turns out I was just an option, a placeholder. That moment marked the beginning of a very long, very painful journey. I was furious, devastated, and feeling more alone than I ever had before. The worst part, I knew I had to decide what to do next, but I wasn't sure if I could ever trust her again, or even if I wanted to. All I knew was I wasn't going to let her get away with this without paying some kind of price. I was going to make sure she understood what she lost, and I was going to do it in a way she'd never see coming. After she left the house that morning, I just sat there, staring at the door she'd slammed behind her. Part of me wanted to run after her, beg her to stay, to tell her I loved her. But deep down, I knew that was pointless. She had already shown me who she was, someone who lied, cheated, and didn't give a damn about what I felt. The pain was overwhelming, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I realized I needed to take control of this mess, to figure out what I was going to do next. I spent the next couple of hours trying to calm down, but my mind was racing. I kept going over everything I'd seen, everything she'd said. The way she dismissed it all, like I was overreacting, like it was no big deal, made me even angrier. How could she be so callous? How could she lie so easily? My trust was shattered, and honestly, I didn't know if I could ever look at her the same way again. But I knew I couldn't just sit here and do nothing. I needed proof, more than just her photos and words. If I was going to confront her again, I had to be prepared. I decided to check her phone logs, her emails, anything that might give me more evidence of what she'd been doing behind my back. I also wanted to see if she'd slipped up somewhere. I felt sick just thinking about it, but I had to be thorough. While she was gone, I also called my best friend, Mike. I didn't tell him everything at first, just that I found out Emily was cheating on me and I needed some advice. Mike's a good guy, always honest. When I told him what I saw, he was furious for me. "Dude, she's a bitch," he said. "You deserve better than some girl who's out there sending sexy pics to some other guy. You gotta confront her again and get every damn detail. No more excuses, she's been lying to your face." That made me feel a little stronger. I decided I'd keep digging until I knew for sure everything. I also knew I had to prepare myself emotionally. No matter what I found, I couldn't let her see me broken. I had to be calm, collected, decisive. I've been a fool for so long, thinking she was my everything. Turns out she was just another manipulative bitch who played me. Later that afternoon, she called. Her voice was sweet, fake as hell. She tried to spin her usual lies, claiming she was just having fun, that it didn't mean anything. She said she was bored in the relationship, that I wasn't paying enough attention to her, that she needed excitement. I could hear the bitchy edge in her tone, like she thought she was so clever, so innocent. But I wasn't buying it anymore, not after what I'd seen. I told her I was done with her bullshit, that I knew everything. I told her she needed to decide what she wanted, me or him. She just laughed, saying I was overreacting, that I was insecure. That was the moment I realized she never cared about my feelings. She only cared about keeping her little secret, her secret sex life with Josh. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying the betrayal, the lies, her sneering face as she told me I was crazy. I felt like I'd been punched again and again. How could she be so selfish? How could she throw away everything we had for some cheap thrill? I kept asking myself if I should just cut her loose, if I could ever trust her again, or if I should just end it all right there. The idea of her with that bastard, lying in bed, sending those filthy pictures, made my stomach turn. But I also knew I had to think about the future. I had to decide whether to fight for what was left or just walk away. I didn't want her to get away with this without consequences, but I was also scared, scared of being alone, scared of losing everything. Still, deep inside, I felt a strange sense of clarity. She had betrayed me, and I didn't know if I could forgive her, not ever. This was just the beginning of what I knew would be a long, painful reckoning. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. The anger was still there, but so was an overwhelming sense of betrayal that I couldn't shake. I knew I couldn't just sit around waiting for her to come back and expect everything to be fine. I had to act, had to get to the bottom of this once and for all. I decided I needed to see her phone again, maybe find some more proof or some kind of confession. I wasn't just going to let her keep lying to me. I quietly snuck into her purse while she was still out. I found her phone unlocked, sitting right there on top. I grabbed it and started scrolling through her messages, emails, anything I could find. The more I looked, the more I uncovered. There were even more photos, some she'd deleted, but I was quick enough to screenshot them. There were texts from Josh, flirty, full of sexual innuendos. There were also messages from other guys, probably just as bad, but I concentrated on him because she was clearly the main one. One message from her read, "Can't wait to see you tonight. I've been thinking about your hands on me all day." I saw a photo she'd sent him, her in the same bikini from the lake house, leaning seductively against the wall. I felt sick. How long had this been going on? How many times had she sneaked around behind my back? I also found some emails she'd written to him, talking about how bored she was and how she needed excitement. She even said she loved the thrill of sneaking around, of hiding from her boring marriage. I read it all, eyes burning with anger, tears threatening to come again. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so naive. I thought we had something real, but she was just playing me, like I was some fool who didn't see what was happening right under his nose. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time, I wanted to be ready. I wanted to get everything out in the open, make her face the consequences of what she'd done. I kept scrolling through her messages, taking screenshots, making sure I had a record of everything. I wanted evidence for myself, for her, so she couldn't deny it. I also started planning my next move, whether to kick her out or maybe even leave her myself. I wasn't sure yet, but I knew I had to do something. I couldn't keep living in this lie. When she finally came back that afternoon, I was already waiting. Her face looked smug, like she thought she'd get away with this. She tried to act innocent, asking how my day was, pretending everything was normal, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I looked her straight in the eyes and showed her the screenshots I'd taken. "You're a liar, Emily," I said, voice cold. "I found everything. The photos, the messages, your little affair with Josh. How long has this been going on? Did you ever really love me?" Her face twisted with annoyance, then outright anger. "Oh, give me a break, Jake. You're just jealous. You're insecure. I was bored, that's all. It's not like I love him or anything, it's just sex. You're making a big deal out of nothing. I don't even know why you're so upset." I couldn't believe she had the nerve to brush it off like that. I felt like I was losing my mind. "Nothing? You think this is nothing? Sending him pictures, calling him babe, while I was at our own anniversary trip. How many times did you do this? How could you lie so easily? You're a bitch, Emily. You've been so cruel, playing me for a fool, pretending to be the perfect wife while you were screwing around behind my back." She started to yell, accusing me of invasiveness, of being paranoid, of ruining everything. But I didn't care about her excuses anymore. I just wanted her to know I wasn't going to let this slide. I told her she needed to leave right then and not come back. I was done. I wanted her gone, and I didn't care if I sounded harsh. She sneered at me, calling me crazy, saying I was overreacting, everything she always did when she got caught. And that's when it hit me. I realized I'd been living in a fantasy. I had built my entire life around a girl who didn't love me, who used me and lied to my face. I'd been so blind, so trusting, until I saw the truth right in front of me. It was a brutal moment, but I knew I had to face it. I had to let her go for my own sake. If she could betray me like this, she didn't deserve my trust, my love, or my life. So I told her I wanted her out, and she finally stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I sat there staring at the mess she left behind, her lipstick smudged, her clothes thrown on the bed, the evidence of her betrayal. I felt numb, exhausted. I thought about what I'd do next, how I'd pick up the pieces. But one thing was clear: I'd never let anyone treat me like that again. I'd rebuild somehow. And as much as it hurt, I knew I'd come out of this stronger. After she left, the house was eerily quiet. The silence was deafening after all the chaos. I sat on the couch, staring at her untouched stuff, feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. All my plans, all my hopes for us shattered. I kept thinking about how she lied, how she cheated, and how deep her betrayal ran. It was like my entire world had been turned upside down overnight. I'd never felt so alone, so utterly betrayed. For hours, I just sat there trying to process everything. I kept flipping through the screenshots, the messages, the photos, and each time I saw them, my stomach would not even tighter. It was a sick feeling, knowing she'd been lying to my face for who knows how long. That realization was worse than the pain of her leaving. It made me question everything I ever believed about us, about her. Had she ever really loved me? Or was I just convenient, someone she could settle for while she chased her thrills? I knew I had to make some decisions. I couldn't just sit here and stew in anger forever. I needed to figure out what I wanted to do about her. Part of me wanted to fight, to make her pay for what she did. Part of me wanted to just walk away and forget she ever existed. But I also knew I needed clarity, so I reached out to a lawyer and started looking into my options. I wasn't sure if I wanted a divorce or just some space, but I knew I couldn't stay in this limbo forever. While I was trying to plan my next step, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of sadness. I'd lost someone I loved, someone I thought was my partner in life. The betrayal cut so deep, it made me question my own judgment. How could I have been so blind? How did I miss all the signs? I kept replaying all those moments, all those little clues I'd conveniently ignored. Her late nights, her secretive phone habits, her snapping at me for no reason. I realized I'd been making excuses for her, trying to justify her behavior, but the truth was I'd always known something wasn't right. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing. I thought about the good times, the memories we'd made, but I couldn't hold on to those without feeling bitter. The images of her with Josh haunted me. I kept asking myself if I should try to fix this, or just cut my losses. Honestly, part of me still hoped I could somehow salvage what little dignity I had left if I fought to get her out of my life completely. I knew I had to take control, but I also felt powerless, like everything I'd believed in was gone. In the days that followed, I started putting my plan into motion. I told myself I'd get through this, no matter how hard it was. I contacted a divorce lawyer, gathered all the evidence I'd found, and made arrangements to have her served. I also started going to the gym more, trying to clear my head. I didn't want to be the broken guy, but honestly, some days were just terrible. I'd wake up feeling empty, angry, or numb. The betrayal had changed everything. I looked at her photos, her texts, and I saw someone I didn't even recognize anymore. In the quiet moments, I kept asking myself if I'd ever forgive her or if I'd ever trust again. I didn't know the answer. All I knew was that I had to take care of myself now. I had to rebuild from the wreckage she left behind. And I had to keep reminding myself, she wasn't worth my pain. She threw away what we had for some fleeting thrill, and I was not going to be her fool anymore. I'd learn from this, move on, and someday, I hoped I'd find someone who truly deserved my trust and respect. But for now, I just had to get through the pain and come out the other side stronger. The hardest part of all this wasn't just finding out she cheated or confronting her. It was the hollow feeling of knowing I'd been played for a fool for so long. The trust I had in Emily was completely shattered. Every moment I thought we shared, every plan for our future, all felt like a lie now. It's a strange thing, realizing someone you loved and trusted has been lying so blatantly. It makes you question everything about yourself, about your judgment. In the weeks that followed, I focused on healing. I threw myself into work, started going out with friends more, and spent a lot of time alone trying to process everything. I learned who my real friends were. They were the ones who didn't judge, who just listened and offered support. I also kept reviewing everything I had, making sure I had all the evidence I needed should I decide to follow through with a divorce. Honestly, I did want to be with someone who could treat me like trash, but I also wanted to do it on my own terms, not just out of anger. One day, I finally sat down and looked at everything in front of me, the photos, the texts, the videos. I realized that I deserved better than someone who would cheat on me, lie, and dismiss my feelings. I deserved honesty, loyalty, and respect. The betrayal hurt so much, but it also freed me from an illusion I'd been living in for too long. I had to accept that Emily was gone, at least as my wife, as my partner. So I signed the paperwork, served her divorce papers, and started the process of rebuilding my life. It was not easy. There were nights I questioned everything, nights I felt like giving up. But eventually I found strength I didn't know I had. I started to forgive myself for trusting her, for believing in us. I realized that her actions were a reflection of her character, not mine. Looking back, I see this experience as a brutal lesson. I learned that sometimes love isn't enough and that people can surprise you in the worst ways. But I also learned the importance of self-respect and boundaries. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it's almost impossible to repair. But life goes on, and so must I. I'm still healing, still figuring out how to trust again, but I know I'll be okay. To anyone out there going through something similar, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs, no matter how much you want it to be different. You deserve honesty and respect, and don't settle for anything less. The pain might be terrible, but it will pass. And one day, you'll look back and realize that losing someone who didn't truly love you was the best thing that ever happened to you. Because it opens up space for real happiness, for someone who will truly value you. And for me, that's exactly what I plan to find.